Wonderful. So I welcome you all to the Skillslash training, the webinar. And now I'm going to welcome you to the field of IT industry. Because see, whenever we are covering these topics, whenever we are going through SQL training and all, I know most of your aspirations will be to join IT, right? So your aspiration would be that you want to join the field of IT. That is your aspiration. So meeting that aspiration, we are now trying to understand what are all the different fields of IT, right? Before I do that, in the chat, all of you, I'll give you 2 minutes of time. I just want to understand my audience today. I want to understand, I'll be quiet for 2 minutes. If you are a student, can you please write down student? If you're working in the field of IT, you can say the role that you are currently playing, developer or whatever role that you're playing. And if you are from a non-IT background, you want to go into the field of IT, you can please put that down there as well. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes. I'll be quiet. You can either write student or non-IT and then IT. And I'll be quiet and I'll wait for the chats. Okay, I'll be quiet for 2 minutes. Okay. Now, as I read through the chats, I got this. This really shows your enthusiasm, everybody. In a very short span of times, I got 100+ answers. Thank you, guys. And if you be with me with this enthusiasm, we are going to definitely learn many things new. So, see, when I look at the chats, I was reading through the chats while you were typing. Many of you say you're students. Some of you saying you are somebody who wants to actually go into the field of IT. Some of you are working in the field of IT, but you want to switch your careers, right? So mixed of crowd this evening, I have mixed of delegates I have got this evening. So thank you for letting me know. Now, all those who are students and who wants to go into the field of IT, this slide is going to be very useful for you because today I'm going to highlight, it's a kind of a career counseling slide. I'm going to highlight what all are the different roles in which you can either start your career or probably switch your career. All those who are already working in the field of IT, this slide will be useful because you would know the other roles in which your career can progress, right? All those who are students who want to go into the IT or who are in a non-IT or in an IT background, this slide will be useful. And now having said that, let us go to the slide where we are going to look at the different roles in which we can either start our career or probably switch our careers. Okay, everybody. Now, see, I want to keep this session very, very interactive. I really want to get messages from you. So I really want all of you to answer. See, there are different roles here, right? The developer, and then I clubbed the data analyst role. Okay, Ravi Salman, thank you for letting me know, guys. So developer is one role, then tester, business analyst, project manager, then you have designer. These are the different roles as most of you said, right? And you can see on my screen also. So in the chat, I'll be quiet for a minute. In the chat, can you write down, let's talk about the first role, developer. In the chat, can you write down what are the responsibilities of a developer, please? What is it that the developers will do? What is the main responsibility? Your friend comes and tells you, I'm a developer. What is the developer responsibility? Please put it in the chat. Excellent answers, and I hope you've got sufficient time to answer. Very good. So somebody who's going to build applications is a developer, isn't it? What kind of applications? It could be a web application. Very good. Mohammad Rizwan, excellent. Jay Shri, very good answer. Sarosh, very good answer. Suraj, good job. Nagarjun, Sarath, Chandra, Muhammad Ali Talha, good answers. So developer is somebody who's going to build applications. Those applications could be web applications. Those applications could be mobile applications, or it could be desktop based applications. Now let me see your knowledge. What is the main difference between web application, mobile application, and desktop based application? How do you classify web, mobile, and desktop? You can write it in the chat as per your understanding. Excellent. Web application is something you host on the web, isn't it? Mobile application is something you play on the mobile phones, and desktop is something which you install on the desktop. Very good answer. Now, these are the latest technologies, guys. Can you see Java, Python, C++, Visual C, C Sharp? Can you all see this? These are the trending technologies which are very widely recognized in the industry. So if you want to do web development, you can go here. Similarly, data science. Does anybody know which is the most important language for data science? You can write it in the chat. Which is the most important language for data science? Excellent. Python, R, these are very popular languages in terms of data science. Very good. So now you know what is the developer, what is the main responsibility of the developer. Very good, Akriti, Avinash, Chinkari, Asma, very good. Now, the next question is, next role is, so you know, if you think you are really good in building applications, developer role is for you. If you like to really analyze the data, you're good in data analysis, you love to analyze the data analyst role is for you. And the next role is the role of a tester. Now, can anybody answer what is the role of a tester? Your friend or cousin comes and tells you, I'm a tester. What is the main responsibility of a tester in any industry? Excellent answers. Keep writing in the chat. Think, what is a tester responsibility? Excellent. I think now I can answer. So somebody who is going to test the requirements, make sure those requirements are as per the customer needs, right, is a tester. Now see, if you want to go into the field of testing career, then there are three main things that you need to know. First is the manual testing concepts. You should be very comfortable with manual testing concepts. The second thing that you should be very comfortable is the ISTQB, which is a certification. I repeat, ISTQB is a certification which you can do. The full form of ISTQB is International Software Testing Qualification Board, right? And the third thing that you should know is automation testing. Okay. So tester will be responsible in testing end-to-end applications, making sure the product is working, right? You do not want to deliver a faulty product to the customer. If you deliver a faulty product to the customer, what will happen? Customer will be unhappy, isn't it? So tester. Now, the next role is a role of a business analyst. How many of you can answer the responsibility of a business analyst? What does a business analyst do? What is the main thing the business analyst is capable of doing? Excellent answers. So, see, the developer is somebody who's going to develop the applications. The tester is somebody who's going to test the application. But all of you agree with me that you need someone who's going to get the requirements from the customer, make sure those requirements are sorted, make sure those requirements are well understood, and somebody who can pass on these requirements to the developer and the tester so that they can build the application. So the main responsibility of a business analyst is to make sure that all the requirements are understood. No, so if you like interacting with customers, you love to understand their requirements, create requirement documentation, then the business analyst role is for you. And then there are some BA certifications which you all can do. Okay, any questions till now? Okay, no question. So business analyst is somebody who is going to understand the requirements and passing it on to the development team so they know what exactly needs to be done, what exactly they want to do. Now then, moving on to the next role, the role of a project manager. Now, what is the main responsibility of a project manager? Excellent. Managing the project. Very good. So he is the head of the family. He is the head of the product development. Somebody who is responsible for making sure that the product is delivered on time. Resources, people are very important. So you should manage those resources. So resource management, time management, budget management, all these different things is what is the main role of a project manager, right? So if you like managing things, you are more inclined towards on the management side, then obviously the project manager role is for you. And there are going to be a lot of certifications again, which we can recommend you to do. Certifications like PMP, there is a certification like Prince 2, plus, that definite that the skill set is needed for all of you to have that skill set of managing the people is needed. So the main responsibility of a project manager is to make sure that the product is delivered on time, resources and everything is managed, right? Now, see, another thing that we did know in the developer role, we said that you should know SQL or database knowledge. Now, many a times there are some roles in the companies which demand you to be very much expert in database side of the things, right? So these roles are example roles like the DBA, which is the database administrator. So there are a lot of roles like this, which expects you to be really experts on the database side of the things. So that's another open positions that is another position which is called as a database administrator. Now, another role that we have is a role of a designer. And what is the main benefit of a designer? What does a designer majorly do? Designer is somebody who is going to design the end-to-end application, right? The front end, the UI stands for user interface, the UX, which is the user experience. So all those things are very easily created using the role of a designer, right? So he or she is an overall technical architect of the project, right? And all the designers, they work on the tools. What is the name of the tools? The name of the tool is Zeppelin or Mockup. All right, everybody. Zeppelin or Mockup. Is that clear? Any questions so far? Okay, so that is the main responsibility. Again, a very, very important role, because see, if the front end of your application is not good, then what will happen if your front end is not good? Can anybody tell me? If the front end is not good, customer will not like to use your application at all, isn't it? So remember, front end of the application should be very, very good. And who will give you the uh, interface. The main responsibility of an interface is a role of somebody called as a designer. Designer will give you the overall interface. All right, everybody, is that clear? Role of a designer. Okay, now what we are going to do is we are going to go to the next role, which is the role of the support team. Now, again, in the chat, all those who know what is the main responsibility of a support team, what does a support team do? Can you answer, guys? Main benefit of the support team, or what is the responsibility of a support team? What is it majorly that the support team does? Excellent. Somebody who is going to support the overall project. Very good. Somebody who's going to support the overall project, how the project will work, what are the benefits. So when you have delivered the product to the customer, think about it, guys. When you have delivered the product to the customer will be using the product, right? And when the customer is using the product, what is the next thing that is going to happen? What is the next thing that is going to happen? Customer might face issues, customer might have some problems, and those problems might be that have to be resolved. So who's going to take the overall responsibility of managing those requirements? Definitely it is the support team. Okay, so support team is the one who's going to manage the overall product end to end, making sure everything is correct. So if I want to go into the field of support, then obviously there are some certifications, plus overall product knowledge should be very much in our mind, right? We should be very good in product management. Okay, all right. So now you know different roles, and see, some of you might say, Priyanka, the role of a scrum master is missing, or product owner, or in different companies when you work, you've got different roles. But this slide is what I've prepared based on my experience. In a nutshell, it is trying to explain you the different people who will join together to build the product, right? So what all are the different roles of people who join together towards the product development? This is the slide which is guiding you through. Okay, now we have 5 minutes before we start jumping into the database, the front end and the back end terminologies, and we try to understand in a simple way. Can you all put it in the chat, all your questions that are coming in your mind, career related or anything that comes to your mind? Can you please put that in the chat, and I will answer them one by one, and then we can quickly go into the database knowledge. Okay, I'll be quiet for another minute. You can pour in all your questions, and then I can start answering your questions. Okay, please put your questions if you have anything that we have covered till now, if you have any doubts. Okay, as I look at your questions, like the last question, as I'm from non-IT background, which will be easier to get to the job. So Tanima, the easiest is, see, in the mind. What is easy? Everything is easy, and what is difficult? Everything is difficult. Now, the benefit of doing this slide, everyone, is that you have understood what all are the different roles in which you can start or probably switch your career, isn't it? Now you have understood that. So whichever thing fascinates you, according to me, you should go for that role. For example, you really like doing development, so why not? The role of development is very demanding. Plus, the most demanding career nowadays, most of you know, is the career of data science, right? So data science is very important career. For data science, you should know proper, yes, SQL knowledge. Whatever we are going to gain, that will help you. In addition to this, the knowledge related to the Python is again very, very important. So please remember that sufficient skill set should be there. Okay. Now, in terms of the SQL that we are going to start now, you will get sufficient knowledge from the data analyst point of view. But yes, there will be some extra resources which we will recommend you to go through as well, right? So, any other question anybody has? Someone has a gap in education, working non-technical, but want to switch. You can switch. As I said, these are the different roles in front of you that you can follow. Okay, any other question? So I think most of the questions around which field to choose. So I would always say that that is dependent on your interest. What is it that you want to do, isn't it? So data science, the developer role, the tester, our response, it depends on what exactly is your aptitude, you know, what exactly do you want to do. Okay, all of them are promising, all of them are very well paid. It depends upon what exactly you want to pursue. Yes, Ritika, the job placements are provided. Okay. Okay. All right. So I hope that gave you enough confidence that now there are, yes, different fields of IT in which we can start or switch our careers. So now I'm going to do one thing. So Chinakari, the Power BI is again another tool which helps you to make visualizations. So we have a upcoming workshop on Tableau or Power BI. You can join those to get a better picture as to what exactly it is. Okay. All right, so I hope that slide was useful. And now let us open a notepad. Whatever I'm going to write down in the notepad, I promise to share that with all of you. And the main reason of sharing that with all of you is so that, you know, you have a repository, you have with you some kind of a content that will be quite very, very handy. Okay, so let us start, everybody. The first role that I'm going to, the first thing that I'm going to put here is a terminology called as front end. And the second terminology that I'm going to use here is back end. So two terminologies, one is front end, the second is back end. Now, any application that you are trying to access will have two things. One thing that they will have is a front end. Front end is what exactly you see, right, when you open an application, and back end is the database side of the things. So front end and back end. The third important thing, the examples of this, you know, it can be rendered using HTML, CSS, JavaScript. It could be rendered using the Bootstrap, right? Backend, we have different terminologies, techniques like SQL, the PL SQL, or maybe different databases if I want to note down, Oracle, so some databases. So any application that you're building, it will definitely need two things. One thing that it will need is a front end, and the second thing that it needs is a back end. Front end and back end. Please take a note of it, right? So in terms of front end, when you're building, you need to know some programming languages. Similarly, when you're working on the database side of the things, you need to have some knowledge around some programming languages. Now we are going to understand what exactly that language is in terms of the SQL programming. So the full form of SQL is Structured Query Language. And it is one of the computer languages which helps you to store, it helps you to manipulate, it helps you to retrieve data, and it also helps you to store that data in a kind of a database. Now, what is a database? Database is something which will hold the data. Database is something which will store the data, isn't it? That is the main responsibility of a database. Now, if we think about it, you know, if we go to a brief history of the databases, you know, we initially used to have something which is called as a DBMS, which stands for the Database Management System. So a system was created so that you can manage things, you can store the things, you can do multiple operations, right? I'll give you a very practical example. Let's say I have shifted from place A to place B. Let's say I was in Hyderabad and I'm moving to Bangalore, right? I want to register myself to the nearest hospital so that God forbid if I need any services, or maybe now if I have to go for some tests, I can go there and I can avail the services of that hospital. Now think about it. I have a hospital where I go, and because I'm the first time customer, let's say this hospital gives me a form to fill. The form that they are giving me to fill, I fill that form, and then what they do is they create my account. So you all agree with me, they will have some kind of a management system which will create my record. So let's write down the first step, which is create. So what they are going to do is they are going to create my account. Now, once the account is created, let's say I go there and I want to update my address. I was living in door number 59. I am now moving to door number 5. So I want them to send me the new letters, the correspondence letters onto the new address. I don't want them to send me a letter to a wrong address or my previous address. So what do I do for that? For that, I am going to ask them to update the system, right? And what they are going to do, they are going to update it. So once they have updated, what is the next step that we are going to do? Let's say I go for some blood test, they do my blood tests, right? And I am asking them for the reports. So when you go to the hospital and you ask them for your reports, majorly what they will ask you is your number, your name or your hospital ID, or sometimes they will ask you your mobile number from which you have registered, right? So some kind of a unique ID they will take and they will enter into the system and the reports will come out, right? How will that all happen? That will all happen using the select operation, right? So they put my details and we're trying to select. Yes, Matthews, very good. The primary key, we'll talk about that terminology. So many of us are looking at SQL concepts for the very first time. So I just want to go a little slow and make sure the foundation is strong, because we at Skillslash always believe that if your foundation is strong, you can pick up any technology, right? So our fundamental knowledge today is going to be to build a good skill set by having very strong fundamentals. Okay, everybody. So we have a front end, we've got a back end, we are having a create concept that we have discussed. Then we've got something which is called as update. Update will help us update the system. And then most important thing next is that when I go to take the records from the system, they will help me to select the record. And then the sixth important thing is, very important thing over here, create, update, select, and then delete. So what is the advantage of delete in this case? Let's say I am no longer going to live in Bangalore, so I don't want to access the what do you say, you don't want to access the facilities. So what do? You will ask them to delete you from the system. Okay, everybody clear? So these are the different operations. You went into the hospital and they created an account. You then wanted to ask them to update, right? And then you wanted to select some specific records. So you kind of fired a select query, right? And the last is important one, which is delete. You ask them to delete it from the system. And what did they do in that case? They deleted it from the system. Clear, everybody? So far, so good. So there is a front end, there is a back end. You create, you update, you select, and you delete. These are the different operations that you are going to perform. Now, think of a database, then another very commonly used terms are database and tables, right? And even before I go this terminology, what I was explaining is the two terminologies, which is first terminology that I wanted to explain you was the DBMS and RDBMS. Can anybody put in the chat the difference between the DBMS and RDBMS? These are very important words that you should all know. Okay. DBMS, Sarath, screen is not visible. Class recordings will be given. Sheikh, don't ask about the recordings now. Okay. So DBMS and RDBMS. Okay, screen is visible. Perfect. So database management system and RDBMS. So what is the difference between both of them? Long ago, when the databases were created, they started with the concept of something which is called as DBMS. Now there is a difference, and then because people were not satisfied, and then our data limits increased, then we looked for a better management system, and that better management system is called as RDBMS. What is it called? RDBMS. How many of you know the main difference between it? Can you put it in the chat? What is the main difference between DBMS and RDBMS? I'll give you a minute's time. You can put it in the chat if you want to. Excellent answers. So see, when it comes to DBMS will store the application in the form of or your data in the form of files. That is the main purpose of DBMS. RDBMS, on the other hand, will store the data in the form of tabular data. Okay, in the form of tables, it is going to store the data. That's the next benefit. The next is, your data should be secure. How many of you agree? Data is very crucial and data should be very secure. So in DBMS, there was no guarantee of secure application. So security was a problem. So DBMS did not apply to any security. But on the other hand, RDBMS definitely has something which is called a security. It has got the integrity constraint, which is very important constraint when it comes to database management system. The another disadvantage of DBMS was that there was no relationship between the tables. So between the data, there was no relationship which you can maintain. But see, in the modern era, the database table should have, for sure, some kind of a tabular structure, right? And most importantly, DBMS was used for small organizations. RDBMS was to handle large amount of data for multiple users. So these are some of the differences, and now most of us know that RDBMS is something which is supported. And one such language which helps you to get a very good grasp of your database is SQL. So SQL is nothing but a language. Okay, if you want to communicate with RDBMS, you need SQL. Is that clear, everybody? People get very confused with this. And then there is something which is called SQL and SQL Server. How many of us understand the difference between SQL and SQL Server? SQL and SQL Server. While SQL is a language, SQL Server is the database. Clear, everybody? That's one main difference between this particular terminologies. I hope there are no questions. SQL and SQL Server. Okay, so SQL is a structured query language, which is a computer language. It helps you to store the data. It helps you to manipulate the data, retrieve the data, and put your data in the relational databases. SQL, on the other hand, is a standard language, right? It helps you to access the systems like MySQL, MS Access, Oracle, SQL Server, and all that stuff, right? So now I'm going to show you the one of the simplest databases, which is definitely there in your systems even before you install anything. And MS Access is the simplest database, right? So in schools and colleges, when you start with the understanding, yes, PPT we will be giving it to you. PPT will be given. Girish, PPT will be given. So blank database, desktop database, you can create a database. So when you click on it, you will be able to see some options, and that is you will see an option to create a table. So you've got something which is called database, and within the database, what you've got is the different tables that you make, or the tables that you can create. Okay, clear, everybody? Now, what is the next step? The next step is where we are going to understand. Let's go back to the slides. We are going to understand that what is the main use purpose of the SQL. What is the benefit of SQL? So the first benefit of SQL is that it will allow the user to access the data in relational database management system. It helps user to describe the data. It will also allow the user to define the data. So these are the different benefits of SQL. First, allow the user to access the data, allow users to describe the data, allow user to define the data in database and manipulate that data. And the main purpose again here is that you can create and you can drop the databases and the tables. I hope that is clear, everybody. No questions? Okay. So you want to see it again? Okay, I'm going to show it to you again. Access is not needed. You can just open it. So just to search, if you have Microsoft Office, just search for Access 2013. This is the simplest database, guys. Simplest, easiest to learn. Though we are going to work on SQL Server, but MS Access is far beyond easy. So easy that you can just borrow a book and you can read it and get an expertise over this database. But see, this was a very useful database. However, nowadays, see, there are different databases. See, nutrition tracking database. You are doing some charitable contribution. You want to make a database for that. Or, you know, you want to, you're trying to find out how many calls are going to come. So some kind of a call tracker system you want to make, or home inventory system, or this inventory, can you see over here? Or you can have a lending library. Can you all see? Personal account ledger. You can have a time card. You can have personal contact messengers. So I hope you all are able to visualize this, right? Okay. So this is how, and then you can select any one of the databases and then you can create it. Okay. So for example, I wanted to create a simple blank desktop database. I select this one. And you can see that inside this multiple tables can be created. So how is the difference between the databases and the tables? I like to explain things in a simple way. So let us try to make a diagram. And in this diagram, let me first give it a different color so that it can be highlighted. So consider the example of a flat and a building, right? You all will agree with me that one building has multiple flats. All of you agree? Now that one building is a big container, big kind of a structure where people can stay, where people live, right? And that big container that you have will have smaller flats where people stay. So it is not wrong to say that there are multiple flats in one building. So similarly, you can have a big structure like you can see on my screen. This structure can be represented as a database, and inside this database you can have multiple tables, and this is exactly what you can do in MS Access also. So for example, I created a database called as employee. Okay, then there are tables in this employee database. It could be an employee name and the age of the employee, right? Or there could be another table in this database which is related to the salary of the employee. So you will say name and you will say salary. So name or age, name and salary. So what are this? This bigger yellow structure is nothing but a database. Within the database, you have got something which is called as multiple tables that you have all created. Is that clear, everybody? So one database will have multiple tables. So going back to the access, this is what you do. So you give the ID, what name you want to give, what kind of data you will store. Will it be a text data or a number, right? Or money, currency, date and time, right? Whether you want to just allow the user to type yes or no. You know, sometimes you are taking event details, but and that there is a question, will the user attend or not? So it can be either yes or no, whether the user attended the event. Either he would have attended or not attended. There is no middle path. Then you have lookup and relationships. You got the rich text, they've got long text, attachments, hyperlinks, calculated fields. So these are all the data that you all have. Is that clear, everybody? I hope there are no questions at all. Wonderful. So that's how we create database and that's how we create a table. Now coming to the next bit. After this, we want to just look at this structure, and then Miss Mandvi will be there for you to explain you some further things. Now, think about it, guys. Look at this diagram for a minute. What comes to your mind when you look at this diagram? Do you see a full structure of the system that we have all created? Yes. So you all can see that I have got a table, right? In that table, what I have got in that big data structure that I have got, what exactly I've got is I have got a big data structure, and in that big data structure, I have got smaller tables, which are going to represent multiple things. So for example, this particular database that I have, it has got smaller table 1, table 2, table 3. These are the different tables I've got, right? Now, if you observe this very carefully, right? Don't miss this out. If you observe this very carefully, you have got a structure where you have created a database with smaller tables. So there is a table which has roll number, name and age, and then you're storing the data, and you've got another table. So these fields or columns is the same thing. Rows or record is the same thing. All right. I hope everybody is back and ready. We can start with the class now. Any questions before we start? Anything anybody wants to ask? Okay, so just before we took the break, we were trying to understand how the different things work, right? So the database, the tables, we have looked into how the combination of these different things work together. And we tried to relate a database and a table together. So now I'm going to share my screen and we are going to understand how these different things work in sync with each other. Okay, so I hope you're all refreshed from break and we can continue without any stopping. So, and you can see my screen. Can you let me know in the chat if my screen is visible? Okay. So what is the benefit of SQL? SQL will allow the user to access the data in relational database management system. It will allow user to describe the data. It will help the user to define the data and create and drop databases and tables. This is another benefit of SQL. This is the overall structure of the SQL. This is the RDBMS structure that we were looking forward, before we finished this thing. And then we have SQL process. How does the entire SQL process works? We have a SQL query, and from the SQL query, we have a query language processor. We have a DBMS engine, and then we have a database. Now see over here, whenever you are firing a query, you got a SQL query which passes on to the query language processor, which will process your query, further passing it on to the DBMS engine, which will directly hit the database and fetch you the results. So SQL query has a query language processor, which further has a DBMS engine. So let's say I fired a query to select a record. That will hit the query language processor, which will further hit the DBMS engine and hence impacting the database directly. So you can see these are the basic terminologies. We have got data, database, RDBMS, and SQL. Today, at least I want to start writing with you all the select queries, how the select queries work. So these are the different terminologies: data, database, RDBMS, and SQL. And when it comes to SQL environment, these are the different things that we discuss: editor, result, message, and object explorer. So this is my entire SQL environment, everybody. Over here on the top, I have got on the left-hand side the Object Explorer window. Then I have got the Results tab. Then I have got the Editor tab where you can write down the different queries. And finally, these are the different categories of your SQL queries. What are the different categories of SQL statements? Let us talk about them one by one. The first category is the data definition language. So this is how they have broadly classified the queries into different areas. The first area in which they classified is the data definition language. So data definition language starts for DDL. What is the terminology, everybody? It's DDL. Create, alter, drop. Okay, so that's the first terminology. The next is DML, which is manipulation language, which is insert, update, and delete. DQL stands for data query language, which is the select. And then you have a DCL, which is a data control language, which is for grant and revoke. Now, these are the different concepts. Imagine this is my RDBMS concept where I've got the different names of people, age, address, salary. So my entire table has been split into different things. Can you all see my screen? So this RDBMS concept says that if my data is placed like this without any correlations with each other, that is called as DBMS. But if there is a correlation, then that becomes a relational database management system. Now, this is the query to create a statement. This is a create statement query, which will help you to create a particular table in the database. So how does it work? I will create a table EMP. The name of the table is EMP. Roll number is char, data type. Employee ID is char. Age is int, and the class is char. So what are these char and int over here? These are my different data types. Char is a data type, int is a data type. Again, there is a char, which is a data type. So R number is roll number, employee ID is there, age is there, class is there. These are your different fields that we have, right? Now, this is how the create statement syntax works like. Okay, so this is some of the queries which I'm walking you through, how we write it. Now, what I'm going to request all of you to do is, this table which I have created, this table I have created is for an EMP table. Now I will give you an assignment. You can all take a picture of it if you want, because these slides we will anyway share with you. And then following this, can you write down in the chat? I will stop sharing. You can take a picture. And can you write down a query to create a table student in which you can put some columns and you can also put some data types. Can we all try that? Just based on this syntax, please take a picture, or maybe what I'll be do, I can leave my screen shared also, or you can take a picture. That will be quicker so that I can quickly access the chat. So use the same syntax and write a table creation for the different things that you have. You can take the name of a student, you can take roll number, you can take age of a student, right? There are different things that you can do. So can you all write it down? I hope you all have taken a picture. I'll stop the screen share and you can put that create query for me in the chat. I'll give you a 1 minute, 2 minutes. Take your time, no rush. Excellent, everybody. I can see many of you were able to create a query which was based on what I showed. Very good. So that means we've got a good level and we can go ahead. Now, see, some of you are asking questions on the indentation. See, in SQL, you don't have to worry about the indentation at all. Okay, indentation should not be a worry for all of you, because what happens in SQL is, even if you don't indent your code, it is fine. Now, coming to, okay, thank you so much, Swati and everybody. I have seen your queries. I have gone through. Good job. Now, what I wanted to actually discuss, let's go ahead, everybody. What I wanted to discuss next with you is, I wanted to discuss one concept, and that is, when it comes to the editor, which is the best editor to do the setup, and which is the best editor in which you can write down the queries, I will recommend all of you to install the SQL Server editor. That is one of the best editors, right? If you install that editor, anyways, you will get a good hands-on and good confidence. So SQL Server editor, if you can install it before tomorrow, that will be big help, so that we can directly do it on the editors. Okay, everyone, I hope that is clear. Now, let's go on to the next bit. And in the next bit, I'm going to share my screen and we are going to discuss further. Okay, I hope my screen is visible now. So create the table is now clear. How do we create the employee table? What are the different values we put it in the employee table? And similarly, let's say now the table is created, right? First, we created a database. After creating the database, the next step was creating a table. Now, because the table is also created, our next step after creating the table is we want to insert the records into the table. How do we insert the records into a table? Simple. We will do insert into table employee ID value. So can you see the syntax? Let me show you the syntax exactly. This is the command. We will write insert into table. We will give the values, and inside the values, we will provide the different values that you want to add. We'll see all of these practically. We'll try to do that on a database editor, or maybe online editor also are good. Any of these we can practice. The next is the SQL select statement. Select statement is the command which helps you to take all the records from a table. So let's say there is a table called as employee, and from the employee table, you wanted to fetch all the details. In order to fetch all the details from the employee table, there is what do you call a query. Query is nothing but a command, right? There is a query called as select. So what we will do is we will do select star from table employee ID, and whatever table you are taking, employee table or student table, any table you are taking, you will do select star from table ID, and that will give you all the details. Now, today we are setting up the context. We are able to understand how the databases are created, how the tables are created. We'll do them practically, as I told you. I'll show you all of them in the online editor. And the next thing that we have is the different numeric data types we have got. So as I told you, there are different types of data types we have. We have numeric, character. These are the two main data types. Numeric data types are the data types which are only for numbers. Only for numbers. So wherever there are numbers involved, you will have numeric data type.
What all are the different numeric data types? The first is integer, the next is small integer, the third is decimal, then you have money, then you have float. When it comes to int data type, you have a from and a to value. Similarly, a small int value is there, decimal is there, money is there, and then float value. So you can see that these are the different data types and the from and the to value. Then we have got the next thing, which is character data type. Characters are nothing but the string value. So for example, I want to store the name of a person. That will be as part of my varchar. Okay. I wanted to store the initial of a person, right? Normally I'll go for char. And then I have got another data type, which is text, which will have some maximum length of this 21456. Can you all see this value? So this value is very important. Now, another thing over here is very important, that whenever it comes to numbers, right? Int, small int, decimal, money, float, whenever it comes to age of a person, you should go for a data type called int. Whenever it comes to a salary of a person, you should go for float. What is float? Decimal, just like a decimal number. But then what is the difference between decimal and float? The decimal have a range and a float have a range, but you can all see that this floating have a range of a different type. Can you all see that? Their range is much more bigger. Now remember, whenever you are working on SQL, you will be working with many times with huge amount of data, complex data. So in such a case, when you have complex data and huge amount of data within the range of minus 1.79e plus 308 to 1.97e 308, if you want to put the value between this, then in that case, you will use the float data type. Okay. Is that clear, everybody? Any questions on this? Anything which is not clear till now? Okay. I hope everything is crystal clear. Let's go to the next one. Now, after the data types, this is the first assignment. So you can preferably install the SQL Server on your system. If you have problems, I will help you that definitely in the class tomorrow. You can take a photo of this, and also the team will also share this assignment with you. So this is the first command. I will discuss this assignment, then I'll give it to you. Okay. So let us try to find out, first of all, let's think, what is the query, what is the command that you will write down in order to create a database demo? Can anybody answer? What is the command to create a database demo? Anybody can answer? You can put it in the chat and I will read it. You want to create a database, so the query will start with create. And then it is a database, right? So you will say create database. What is the name of the database? Demo. So you will say create, then you will give the keyword here. That's a reserved word. You will write down database and then you will give demo. Simple, isn't it? So you will say create a database demo. The query that you are going to write down is create database and give the name of the database. Then you wanted to create the employee ID, employee table. I gave you this assignment already, right? When I asked you to put it in the chat. So student table, how do you create a student table? Create table student. And then the different fields were given. Similarly, here also you will say create table EMP. And then you have got employee ID, name, address, city. Can you all see these different things? And then you wanted to insert, and then what you have to do, you need to add 10 records. So what is the query for inserting the record? Simple, insert into, give the table name and give the different columns, the employee ID, the name, the addresses, the city, the date of birth, the phone, the email. Is it all making sense, everyone? This is how you will add the values. Now, after doing all this is the step one by one. I'm going to show you now how you can install the SQL Server. It is very, very easy. Very, very easy. But the only problem with this is, it takes minimum 30 to 40 minutes. That's why I don't want to do in the class. You guys can take a photo of this if you want. We'll share the slides with you. You can take a picture. Now, guys, here in the SQL workshop, we will also guide you. We're not just going to write queries. Today's session was more of understanding the basic stuff. Tomorrow, we're going to pick up speed. So hopefully by tomorrow, you can follow these instructions and you can download it. So let me show you step by step how you can download. You will click on this particular link, and I'll not do that for now, but just click on this link, SQL Server 2014. Or you can also go to Google and you can just search download SQL Server 2014. Just type download Google soft SQL Server 2014. And then, there will be a big list of files there. You don't have to worry because you don't have to install all the files. Okay, I repeat, you don't have to install all the files. Only two files are needed. One is your server file and the second is the management studio file. These are the two files we need, guys. The first is the server file. Second is the management studio file. In the server file, you can see there is written express 64-bit SQL express x64 enu.exe. And in the management studio file, you've got management studio 64-bit file. Can you all see this? Good. Now, what we are going to do next is in this server file that you have got and that management studio file that you have got, you will download this. But remember, when you are installing, you install the server file first. All the instructions are written here. I'm just reading from the slide at the moment. So you will install the server file, and after that, you will install the management studio file, and then installation will be done. Now, let me just, you can take a picture. I just want to go to the chat and I want to look at your questions. So far, so if there is any questions, can you start putting in the chat and let me answer one by one. If you have a SQL workbench, why not? You can go for it. So as I said, guys, any editor will work. Okay, any editor. So far as it has a database and query writing capability, good. Matthew Salvis, shall we go with the latest version? Why not, Matthew? Latest version also is good. Okay, any version. So Chandra, other than this, nothing is required. You can just download this steps one by one. Okay, Indra, writing query. See, we are not going to get a mastery after this 4 hours of workshop, but see, writing query takes little time. Okay, so I'm going to explain you first of all what is a query. Query is a command that you will write down in order to do some operations. Okay, Chandra. Second thing is, whenever you're writing the queries, there are some syntaxes that you have to follow. Okay, for example, if you want to create a database. So Chandra, for databases, the query syntax is create database and you give the name of the database. If you want to create a database, let's say company. So what you will do? Create database company. If you don't do that, you will not be able to create the database, isn't it? Now, second thing is, let's say want to create a table. So similarly, you have got a different syntax for that. So you will say create table and you will give the table name. Then you want to insert into the records, right? So you will say insert into, give the table name and what all values you want to insert. So once this PPT is shared with you, you can refer to that PPT and you can attempt. So Deepak, assignment, any syntax? Yes, in this syntax only you should try. And ideally, if you have done the setup and everything, after doing the setup, you can even practice your query also and send it. Okay. Nagendra Babu, the screen is not shared yet. Okay, don't worry, screen is not shared. Satish Kumar, what is the role of a SQL developer? The role of a SQL developer is to make sure that the database side of the application is working properly, right? A company is making a railway booking system. Okay, so then in that railway booking system, you will have a front end and back end. The back end team will make sure that the database is up and running. Okay, what other questions we have? How do you submit the assignment? Yes, you can take the picture and just upload it in the Word document. Anyway, that is fine, not a problem. Okay, any other question you have? You have Oracle SQL, Narendra Babu, you can practice on that. Yes, Deepak, after this, I'll give you some work, some assignments. After the workshop completes, we can have some assignments, no problem. Okay, how do you connect to database to a server? It is very straightforward. Once you follow those instructions one by one, You install it, you directly open the management studio and just click on connect. The values will be pre-populated. Okay, assignment question on the piece of paper, Mohammad Rizwan, then you will have to take a photo and then you have to send it. No, paper you cannot submit. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is, some of you wanted to look at the assignment. So as I told you, the team will definitely share the slides also with you. But if you still want to take a picture, you can take a picture. This is the assignment, guys. You can take a picture if you want, no problem. So it is written assignment 1, create a database demo, create table EMP. Okay. And these are, once you have you taken the picture, all of you? The slides will be shared with you. This is installing SQL Server. These are the steps. So you will go to that link. If you go to that link, right, one by one, let me copy this and see if it is allowing me. Or let me just click on this and show you one time. So you will be directed to Microsoft.com. You don't have to create any link, nothing like that you have to do. Can you see? Just you have to click on this download option. Just click on this download. So on my case, it is not allowing me, but you will all be able to install it for sure. Okay. You'll be able to get a pop-up. In that pop-up, you will be able to select the files. Let me share my screen again and show you which files am I referring to so that it is clear in your mind. This link which is there, do you want the link of the that website link you want, everyone? Okay, I'll put it in the chat. Okay, I'm putting it in the chat for all of you. The link where you need to go. All right, Marut Tripati. I'll put it 2-3 times so that you can see it very loud and clear. This is the link you have to click. Okay, and once the slides are given to you, you will be much more easily be able to do it. Lokesh, smiling, all good? Okay, keep smiling. Okay, now going back to this slide. So this is the step, go here, then just tick the file. And you know what will happen? One problem will happen tomorrow, I'll tell you. Because there'll be so many files, no, one by one you have to search where is Express 64-bit SQL Express x64 ENU. It will be a challenge to search. There'll be a lot of files, right? So what you all can do is you can copy this from here, and you can do a Control F. You can search it on the page. That file will come up and then you just press the tick. There is a checkbox, you will put a tick. Similarly, Management Studio 64-bit SQL Management Studio x64, copy this, paste it and run it and see. It will be a tick. Put a tick on that. Okay. Click on the next and the download will start automatically. Once the file has been downloaded, you will just follow the installation wizard and all done. Okay, any questions so far? Is everybody clear on this? No questions? Okay, let's try to summarize what we have done till now so that we are all on the same page. So we started our session today with the welcome to IT document. Now all of you know that there are different roles which people in the field of IT will play. Some of them will be developers, some of them will be testers. If they are developers, they will build applications. If they are testers, they will test. If they are database administrators, they will take care of the databases, right? If they are project managers, they will manage the overall project. If they are business analysts, they will work on the requirement part, right? And if they are, let's say, support team, in that case, they will support, right? So these are the different roles in the field of IT that we have. We then moved on understanding what is the main difference between DBMS and RDBMS. DBMS was used in olden days. Nowadays, with so much of data, you cannot have DBMS. Security is very less. The data structure is not very compact. So it's not a very good idea. So you use something which is called as relational database management system. And when it comes to the RDBMS, which is Relational Database Management System, it helps you to create tables and create the relations between the different tables. That is the benefit. Okay. The next thing that we discussed is that what is the difference between SQL and SQL Server? I hope everybody understands that SQL Server is a database, is a structure. So when you are installing that installation on your system, you will get the SQL Server ready. And in the SQL Server, you are going to write down some commands. Commands like create, commands like insert, commands like select, commands like update. You're going to put those commands one by one. And those commands are called as nothing but queries. What are those commands called, everybody? Queries. Okay, so you will write down those commands. Commands are called as queries. You will take a note of it, write it down. And then we discussed that there are different commands we have got. We have got a command that will help us to create a database. The name of that command is create database employee. Similarly, within the employee database, if I wanted to create a table called as in the employee, I've got a database called a table called EMP details. So I will create EMP details and I will give the columns. Now empty table is useless, right? If you do not put inside that empty table, it is go bad. So in that empty table, you are going to add some values. You will insert some values. And how do you insert the values? You will add them one by one. Okay, so you inserted the values, added the values. Now your table is fully populated. Then what you do next is you will then try to select from that table. So you will try to read from that table using the select query, which is this one. Insert and then finally select. Select star from table. That star means everything. Remember, star means everything. So star means you're trying to get everything. And finally, we discuss some data types. Clear, everybody? This is the assignment. If some of you have not taken a photo, please do that. Okay. And this is the steps to install SQL Server. If we do in the class, it will take 30-40 minutes. And some of you might be joined with your mobile network. It will take a lot of time. Okay, be very prepared. So if any one of you are using company laptop, you don't want to install, then no problem. We will continue on the online editor. Okay, everybody? All right. Any questions? Time for questions. We got less than 5 minutes left. Do you have any questions? So these slides, they will share with you. Team will share with you. Girish, insert is basically a query to add the record in the table, right? So for example, you made a table. Now in that table, you want to put the values also, right? So you made a table called student. So in that student table, you need to put the values like the name of the student, the ID of the student, right? So all those things are done using the insert command. Okay, so Lavanya, you want to choose the MySQL instead of Microsoft. Any editor is fine, don't worry. Okay. All right, any further questions, guys? Anything which you have not clear, you want? So today and tomorrow we will have this session. Tomorrow we'll pick up speed. We are going to do some complex queries also. Today was more to understand. A location internet is definitely, my dear, needed. Without internet, you will not be able to download. And that's the reason we are not doing in the class, because some of you might have less internet, low internet. Some of you might have less space on your laptop. So again, if you don't want to go with installations, it's not mandatory for tomorrow's session. I'll give you online editor. You can practice on that also. Don't worry. All right. So thank you so much all for joining today. If there are no questions, we can close the session. So I hope whatever we have covered is clear. Please join on time tomorrow so that we can cover much more detailed queries tomorrow. Okay, we are understanding the fundamentals, which is good, but we need to go to the next level also, which we will cover tomorrow. All right. Thank you so much for spending out your time, guys. And good night, everybody. Take care. See you all tomorrow, same time. Thank you. Thank you for your messages. And I'll see you all tomorrow. Good luck, everybody. See you tomorrow. Good night. Bye-bye.